Welcome to Haydenfilms Verge, episode number 1. This has been a long time in the making, and we're very pleased to announce our show. My name is Hayden Craddolph, your host.
And I'm Brandon DeBenedetta, your co-host. So, Hayden, who's our guest on today's show?
Oh my gosh, we have a fantastic guest today. What a memorable day this is. Mr. Juan Castro, president and founder of All Abilities Live. He's going to be discussing his new streaming platform, also what it is to be a businessman and entrepreneurship.
And
all right.
Mr. Juan.
Oh my gosh.
Good
How you
to
doing,
see
sir? Great. Welcome. Join us.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So how was your drive in here today from, Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey?
Not too bad. It's Monday, so, the traffic is a little light today.
Okay.
Everybody's working and stuff, so not
All
too
right.
bad.
So, tell our audience, where do you hail from? Where do you originally come from? Where you were born? Things of that nature?
Where I was born, Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Where I'm from, I guess the Pennsylvania area primarily. I moved around quite a bit. Lived in PA, lived in Puerto Rico, lived in California, lived in New Jersey.
All right.
So, kind of moved around a bit, trying to find my place. I think I found it in New Jersey.
All right.
For now.
But
we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
All right, good. So, obviously, our show is focusing on entrepreneurship and leadership and things of that nature. And, a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, is going to be interested in, what was the process like to go from, being a 9-to-5 guy to just being an entrepreneur and someone that, opens up their own business?
I guess it's a long process, I'm a therapist by trade, so kind of what I'm doing now is not really related to what my profession has been for such a long time. But I always knew I wanted to kind of do my own thing and run my own business and, just make a difference from various different perspectives. And, I knew I needed sort of that foundation established, so the 9-to-5 is essentially what we all have to do,
Mm-hmm.
at one point in time. So, I was fortunate enough to have a great profession and learn a lot through my profession and working for different agencies and different businesses. But it also allowed me to network and allowed me to learn what worked, what didn't. So when it gave me the opportunity to kind of go out on my own, I had that information, in my tool bag.
Right. So I'm studying business right now in college, and I eventually want to own my own business as well. So where did you start with that 9-to-5 job? Where did you ending up in the first place before you made the transition?
Well, I think for me, I had a couple small odd-end jobs. I worked for Express before, Express had a men's department, so I was like the only dude working in the stock room in the back and with a bunch of messy girls. I remember, and I'm very anal, so I would have the stock room clean and just very organized, and everything would be in its place, and then the girls would come in and just tear the place up, and I just left one day during lunch and never came back. So I had a couple of those jobs that just weren't satisfying for me. Then I decided, when it was time to go to school, I knew I wanted to be a psych major. And I said, you know what, I need to make sure I'm getting experience now while I'm in school. So I actually became a residential counselor at a group home. And that's kind of what, kind of got me started on my, professional track is, at that point, my first year in college. Went through school, worked all the way through school. And again, I think kind of tested with different business ideas. I got into real estate really early, so I think that was my first, kind of experience with business. I had some investment properties, did really well with those. Opened up a barber shop was, my first real business. Opened up a barber shop. A couple things kind of happened, which looking back now were I think positive things. At the moment, I didn't feel so positive because I invested a lot of time and money, into that business. But it really did work out better in my favor. It kind of forced me to transition ultimately from Pennsylvania to California. So, again, just kind of stayed within, my profession, but always kind of had my toe in the water with business stuff, while I was working.
So let's talk little bit about the barbershop specifically. I think, again, entrepreneurs, and especially with the quote unquote influencers that are on social media nowadays, you'll see so many influencers make it seem like it's just a skyrocket rise to success. Everyone's with the fancy cars, houses, and everything like that. What specific challenge or hurdle specifically did you have to overcome with the barbershop specifically, and failure, success, what ultimately happened?
I mean, I think I'll just go straight to the failure, because for me, I think the failures are what defines us. I think those are the things that have made me who I am. We can all gloat and glorify our successes, but that's not just who I am. That's not my personality. One of the challenges I had was parking. It was in like Center City. It was on a main corner. And I had some zoning issues with parking, so they weren't willing to approve the permits for us opening because of parking. So I formed a petition. I went around to all the neighbors in the community and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to open up a barbershop, but it's not going to be like your normal barbershop that you have on every other corner. We're going to do it differently, and it's going to be about the community. It's going to be about creating a safe space for your kids and for your father or your grandfather to even come in and enjoy a haircut."
Sure.
So I got pretty much everybody I needed to get within the community to sign the petition, and then went to the zoning board and was able to get the property zoned.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that was the biggest hurdle for me. And then the other was just kind of some associates at the time. Again, anybody that knows the barbershop industry or any kind of business like that, it's people are not always dependable. So it kind of created some tension and some complications, which delayed the process. But I think on the positive side, it gave me the opportunity to just kind of test out a model, test out a concept, and it really came to fruition and it worked. We knew it was going to work. So I think as an entrepreneur, the biggest thing is just willing to take a chance and willing to just take that leap of faith, and being so young.
Yeah, great. And I mean, I think that's a great first place to start your own business,
Mm-hmm.
having a barbershop and everything. So what was the final straw with okay, I'm done with this, I got to move on, I got to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, without getting too personal, but I think the area the barbershop was in a pretty rough neighborhood, and the neighborhood just continued to get worse. And just again, friends and associates and stuff like that made it to be sort of an unsafe, environment. Not because of anything we were doing, internally, but everything that was going on outside. And I just said, listen, I think it's just best, for us to just kind of step away, take our losses, and take, what we gained from it, and kind of move on to something else. And then also, I knew I was graduating school. I knew I wanted to transition to the West Coast. So I was just it just all kind of worked out, for the best.
Yeah. So you made the transition to the West Coast. Obviously, that transition happened very quick. From talking to you in past about your journey and things of that nature. So what do you think helped you make that jump and that leap of faith to the West Coast with a short period of time?
I mean, I think I had some influences. I always knew I wanted to kind of be on the West Coast. I had family members who kind of, I think molded me to want to make that transition. So I was kind of I knew when the opportunity kind of came up, I was going to take advantage of it one way or the other. Mm-hmm. I think, it happened so quick because I knew if it didn't, I would maybe kind of change my mind. And it was a tough decision. I left my family. I left my son. I had a son very early in life, and I left him and had to uproot out there and just kind of get my feet settled and get established, and then transition my family out, which ultimately what I did a year or so after being out there. But I knew if I didn't make it quick, I would second guess it, and again, as being a business owner, as being somebody who likes to think as themselves as a progressive, you just if you got a thought, you just got to execute, and I just executed.
Awesome. So with that said, I mean, did California at any part, inspire you with your new business venture with All Abilities Live? Tell us a little bit about the process and how All Abilities Live has come to fruition and where it's going.
Absolutely. California had a huge influence on, the All Abilities Live platform. All Abilities Live was sort of birth child of another business that I have, which is called All Ability Sports. That started from, my profession, wanting to provide. I've always been an athlete. My son, is a high-level athlete. I've been around sports my whole life, from track to football to basketball to baseball. I always knew I wanted to kind of be in the sports arena, and then once I became a professional and a therapist, I said, why is it that only the typically developing kids have the opportunity to be a part of, team sports? These kids don't have the opportunity. So that, again, I knew it was something I wanted to do, but my experiences out in LA kind of gave me, a lot of the information I needed to be able to make that, a reality. I was fortunate enough to work for a phenomenal agency called Holding Hands. I had, a phenomenal boss, our owner or director. Learned a lot. I climbed the corporate ladder pretty quickly, became the assistant director, within a couple years, after not having any experience within that field. Just because I was hungry, I wanted to learn. I'm a student of the game, whatever game I'm in. Whether it's sports, whether it's business, whether it's academics. I love to study. I love to learn. I love to grow. So I just took advantage of all those opportunities and just kind of made them my own. And that's just been me since day one. I have several siblings. I always took bits and pieces of what worked, what didn't work, and just kind of created this person who me. And that's worked for me. And I kind of took that same concept and kind of took everything that I was learning, what worked, what I didn't like. I didn't like this. I didn't like that. And just kind of turn that into my concepts.
So All Abilities Live, Mr. Brandon, tell us a little bit about your experience with streaming as it pertains to what Juan's actually launching.
So I'm a cheerleader right now at Kutztown University. So a lot of my friends watch the All-Star divisions of cheerleading, and they have an online streaming service. One of them is Flow Cheer. They're a subscription-based service that you can purchase for. It's a yearly subscription that you can pay for, so you can watch competitions as they go on throughout the year. Is All Abilities Live going to offer a similar sort of subscription service?
Yes. So, and I just realized I didn't kind of get into that on the last question. Just so excited to be here on your show. This is a great platform that you're providing to us, young entrepreneurs and stuff. So, again, the initial concept was for us to just stream sports at the facility. So I'm in the process of transitioning to opening up a sports complex. So the idea was to just provide live streaming at the facility for sporting events or tournaments or leagues and so on and so forth. Because I've been to a million different sports facilities, and their services that they offered were pretty, they weren't at the expectation, the level of expectation that I would have if that was my facility. So I said, listen, when I open up, I want this to be on some high production value level, ESPN type of level. So that's kind of where the concept initially started. But then I was like, what? Why stop there? Why not just turn this into an actual business and just completely separate from that platform, because there's so many other industries such as cheerleading that could benefit from having a platform like this. I was a father who traveled, and I still travel with my son all the time, but unfortunately there are a lot of parents who don't have that luxury to travel, and a lot of my son's friends, parents couldn't travel. They couldn't be a part of that experience because of work or finances and so on and so forth. So we wanted to create a platform that gave those parents who were unfortunately unable to be available the opportunity to experience their son or their daughter taking part in events such as cheerleading, such as football, such as soccer, such as baseball. So we're going to be not only, in basketball and football, the sort of glorified sports that you kind of hear about this platform being used. We want to cover everything, including cheerleading. Anything that potentially has, a market, we want to make sure that we're tapping into.
You're going to do things other than sports as well? Like was something that's completely not athletic related?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you think is going to differentiate All Abilities Live from other live streaming platforms? What is going to make your brand differentiate, and how can it help other smaller organization, rec leagues, companies flourish with your brand?
Great question. Again, I think that's what I pride myself on the most is kind of differentiating myself from the competition. We're in a very competitive space. Just in business in general, you got, when I started a barber shop, there was a million different barber shops. When I did real estate, everybody's doing real estate. When I started the sports complex, everybody has a sports complex. But what can you do to separate yourself? So I think what we're going to do, without sort of spreading ourselves too thin, but I think with our background, our experience, and our staff, I think we're going to be able to sort of take this concept and expand into a ton of different industries. The ones that stand out the most, that are probably going to be the most prominent, is weddings. Weddings is a really big industry. People are getting married all the time. People want that experience to be captured. Unfortunately, there are times where family members can't attend those weddings because they're old or they're sick or they live too far. So how cool would it be to be able to provide that family member who's not able to attend the opportunity to attend from their couch, right? Yeah. And so we're going to create this experience, kind of taking that same concept for the sports, multiple cameras, really like you're in the action without being in the action. So it really creates, that sentimental experience, that they would have had if they were there sitting in the chair watching their daughter or their granddaughter or their niece or their nephew get married. Also, real estate. Technology is taking over almost every single industry. So we're going to use this for real estate agents to be able to separate themselves from their competition. Zillow and Realtor.com and all of these platforms who are really putting the pressure on real estate agents and traditional real estate marketing. They're feeling the pressure. So giving them a platform to be able to use, digitally, to be able to reach the masses, our platform is going to be able to provide them that opportunity. So those are two industries that we're going to focus on pretty heavily, in addition to a few others.
So if I was an organization or an actual athlete or school, or how can we get in contact with All Abilities Live? How do we reach out to you on social media, website? What's the preferred manner?
Yep. You can reach us out. You can reach us on our website, allabilitieslive.com. You can reach us on our social channels, All Abilities Live, Facebook, Instagram. We're going to be everywhere. So you're going to see our logo, you're going to see our branding everywhere. So if you're going to catch us walking down the street, you're going to catch us at a sporting event. You might catch us riding in the backseat of the car that you're going to take for a test drive.
There you go.
So just be prepared to see that All Abilities Live logo.
What do you think, again, for our listeners and viewers out there, circling back to, entrepreneurship and anyone that is, possibly even here in our Haydenfilms Verge team here, what would you say to them in terms of, starting a business or embarking on something that they're passionate about? What words of wisdom can you provide them?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take a chance. I think that, not only applies in business, but in life, relationships, everything, don't be afraid to take a chance. There's no guaranteed success, but you won't know if you can be successful unless you try. So you got to just go out and just make the jump, and despite what people may say or feel, if it's something you really want to do and you feel it in your gut and this, do it. Don't be influenced by, the naysayers and things like that. For me, be influenced by the naysayers, but on the opposite side of it, let them drive you, let them motivate you. The ones that say you can't do that, you're not going to be successful, let that be motivation. And that's, one thing that I've used. I've had a lot of people say, you're not going to be successful, you're not going to do it, you're this, you're that, and what I tell them now is, you were wrong.
Exactly.
Right? You were
exactly.
wrong. So.
I can just definitely attest to that. Just the journey that Hayden Films has been on since, going and getting and creating our online film festival, and just, it was 1,000 no's before you got your first yes. And the no's are painful sometimes. It's those no's mount up, and if you can't force through and break through that wall, on the other side, success does lie, and it does feel good. And again, everyone that's part of the Haydenfilms Verge Nation, we appreciate everyone. And Brandon, what is our new awesome thing that we're going to be asking our guests? I think you had something special to say to Mr. Juan Castro here in terms of how he can incorporate and touch base to some of our listeners.
Oh yeah, of course. So naturally, at the end of our videos, of course, we're going to have our audience commenting on the videos that we post, but something that we want to do a little bit differently is we want to give you the chance to ask our listeners a question that you might have as well, just to reach out to maybe the younger demographic.
Now, is it a question in specific to the business, or is it just
any question that you want to get data from?
Yeah, so it can be related to your business, something about like some ideas of other specific events that they might be interested in you covering, something along those lines.
Yeah,
it can be
exactly. And the twist, real quick, the twist is once you ask your question, the people that are going to engage your question, our hopes are you'll jump into the conversation with them, and they'll be really pleased to actually have Juan Castro, reach out to them.
Yeah.
So what's your question of choice?
Obviously, I'm in the business of growing my business. So, anything that, your viewers can give me perspective on. So I would say, what industries or what ways could you see live streaming being integrated within, some of the industries and some of the businesses that you enjoy patronizing?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. So, we wanted to thank you for coming to our first show, episode number 1. Again, this was a monumental day. We appreciate it. And again, we want to thank all of the team here at Haydenfilms Verge. We're going to make this a successful podcast and a video on all your channels out there. So, we were going to close out with our call to action.
Can I just say something real
please,
quick?
Go ahead, say something.
I know we were here talking here, but can I direct something to the camera quickly?
Sure, direct.
What Haydenfilms Verge is doing, this is some straight, high level, revolutionary type stuff to give somebody like me who has a very small voice, a bigger voice to reach the masses, to spread the word, to share my journey, with their audience, to sort of help grow my platform. So I just want to say thank you to the viewers for listening in and watching, and thank you guys for having me.
Sure,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you for being here today.
Definitely.
To everybody out there that's watching, please comment. It's not every day you get the chance to reach out to somebody who's a high-level entrepreneur, somebody that's got an opportunity to grow their own businesses, who's been through the failures, whether you're going into college, getting ready to graduate and start your own business. Reach out. You'll get some great advice. If you're interested in being on our next episode of Haydenfilms Verge, tag us on Instagram at Haydenfilms or send us an email at info@haydenfilmsinstitute.org. Looking forward to hearing from you.